Alright, okay, good evening. Welcome to today's session over here. Okay, good. So we'll get started for today's session. I think very usual. If you have been joining us for some time, I think you'll be familiar with the overall structure. So what we'll be doing is to walk you through the overview of the week. What are some of the things to take note of? What are some of the opportunities to keep an eye on? After which we'll have a quick Q&A. And then I'll update you guys in terms of some of the events that are coming and some of the announcement over here. Right. So with that said, let's jump in. For this week over here, if you take a look at the events calendar, very quickly a quick recap of last week. So Friday is NFP. We kind of see the NFP came out a little bit worse off. The hourly average earnings were better off than expected, and then unemployment rate is basically maintaining at 3.6, which is what the general consensus actually expect. Okay, but again, the data itself can create some short-term volatility, but at the end of the day, price will just move whatever it wants, right? And if you take a look at the dollar post NFP, we actually saw the dollar weaken quite a bit. Okay, in fact, it generated what we call an impulsive move. Later in a while, when we look at the charts, we'll point that out as well. Okay, so that's just a very quick recap as to last Friday NFP data. And if you take a look at this week, going into Wednesday, we do have the RBNZ rate statement, so that's definitely important if you're trading the Kiwi, you're trading New Zealand. For me, okay. Good. So thanks, Yusuf, for pointing out. I think now it's fine. Okay, I forgot to unmute. Okay. So quick recap again. I think just now what we mentioned, if you take a look at the screen, was we kind of did a recap of NFP, right? Okay. Yeah. So I was mentioning just now that this week event over here, the focus will be on RBNZ on Wednesday. Okay, if you're trading in New Zealand. And for me, I think what's more important is definitely the 8:30 evening US data on CPI. Okay, so that's gonna be very important because again that's inflationary data, right? And you can see over here year on year, last reported was 4. Right now we are expecting a drop to 3.1. And you still remember, just 1 year before it, CPI was as high as close to 9%. Okay, around there, and we have seen like significantly it has fell from the peak at June last year, and then right now we're around like 4%. Okay, so if Wednesday CPI were to come out lower than 4%, okay, there's a very good chance that the Fed may take it as a hint such that they may not need to hike it again, right? They may stop rate hikes. And that would then also naturally mean maybe more weakness for the dollar itself. Right? So CPI data is very crucial because that will give us some info as to going forward in the next week. Okay, I go forward a little bit, right? Somewhere around 27th of July, that's where the FOMC is going to make a decision as to whether to increase rates or to perhaps maintain and then start talking about peaking interest rate, right? So that's the part where this coming CPI is going to be crucial. If we can see, I think, if it comes out about 3.1 or even lower, we can definitely see more weakness in the dollar potentially. Okay. And on the same day on Wednesday, we do have the BOC, Bank of Canada rate statement as well. So over here, you can see market is expecting a hike of 0.25. Okay. Again, this one here, I think it's not so much about whether they're gonna hike it or not, but you want to track the surprise element. Okay, so if the market is expecting a hike to a high of 0.25 to 5%, if let's say the actual data comes out, there's no hike, that's a surprise element. If it hike, it may not be a surprise element, and maybe the cat will be just muted. It's gonna be quiet. Okay. So that's the focus for this week, okay? All the events here are basically, important ones are basically on Wednesday, okay? So that day itself is going to be very crucial. Right, so with that said, let's take a look at the charts over here. Okay, so this is a chart on dollar index. What you can see, of course, is this is NFP day, right? So post NFP, the dollar actually weakened quite significantly. Okay, and the idea going into this week here is, of course, Wednesday CPI is going to be crucial. Technical wise, if we can get kind of a pullback correctively, it does not need to come here. Okay, maybe somewhere here, but the idea is as long as it's corrective in nature, okay, the CPI may act as the next catalyst for dollar to continue to weaken. Okay, so my directional bias for this week is bearish, which means I'm not so interested in buying the dollar. I'm more interested in selling it. Okay. And of course, in terms of targets over here for DXY, one is around the previous low at 101.90, and then the extended target here is about 180. Okay, so this is on DXY. Okay, so quite clear structure over here. You can see this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Completed this move, a very simple three-wave pullback. We have our first impulse. So this may start to build in more downside, right? To complete a bigger structure of a three-wave down. So with that said, if you take a look at the euro, okay, so last Friday NFP, you can see dollar weakened, euro dollar went up very impulsively. Okay, broke off this as well. So if from here on we can get a pretty nice little corrective pullback, okay, that will be a buy opportunity with a target at 1.1060. And of course, what we can also look out for is this recent high, right? So around this zone, that will be a potential buy. So this is also, I think, one of the clearest setup and potential structure for the week. Okay, definitely you want to keep an eye on going into CPI on Wednesday. That can be a catalyst for us to take this trade to the upside. Right, so same structure over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or if I put it in an alternate count, this can be 1, 2, 3. This is 4, and then this is 5. It doesn't really matter as of now because the idea here is if you get a corrective move, we're gonna trade it to the upside, right? Whether this is a new wave up or this is just essentially a fifth wave, we're not so particular on that. We just want to catch on this upside, right? Okay, so again, just want to let you know labeling is not the most important aspect based on Elliott Wave. At the end of the day, it's more of a study of like how the pattern is developing, how the move is happening, add in some context here and there. The count is to help us communicate the idea. Okay. So euro dollar, definitely one of the pair to keep an eye on, potentially focus on the upside. Okay. GBP USD over here as well. I believe that there's a little bit more upside that we can look into. Okay. But the more important aspect, of course, is we want to see how this is going to develop, right? Ideally, it should be a corrective move. Now, you need to be adaptive to what the market is telling you as well, because what can happen over here is this can be what we call a truncation. Okay, which means fifth wave is here. It's kind of equal high. Okay, so that is potentially a pattern in Elliott Wave as well called truncation, which means fifth wave doesn't really extend higher. And that can happen, right? And if that's the case, then we can see this as double top. And how do we then switch to this alternate view? Is if we start to see an impulsive drop, a corrective move here, then we'll all obviously, start to look for sell trade with a double top as a pattern. Okay, so you need to be prepared, right? In terms of like the primary view right now is if this does a correction, we expect a little bit more upside. But if that doesn't happen, how are we gonna plan ahead, right? And the alternative view will kick in. Okay, so in terms of pound dollar, you need to give it a little bit more time and see how the market's going to develop from here. Okay, corrective, look for short-term upside. If we don't get that, we start to see price move a little bit more to the downside and starts to form a little bit of a V shape here. Take this as a top. Okay, any correction, then you start to look for sell instead. Okay, so just be adaptive to what the market is telling you. Yeah. And then we have Aussie dollar. Okay, so Aussie dollar, today we kind of still within this channel, right? So my view here is that overall price is developing pretty correctively. Okay, so over here you can see I put in a channel to help us visualize that. We have this as an impulse. This is naturally corrective relative to the previous impulse. So if this just pulls back a little bit more towards the zone, naturally that will give us an opportunity to sell. Okay, so that's the pattern of an impulse correction, impulse move. So Aussie dollar is also quite a clean, and I will say clear structure. Okay, and of course we don't really have an Aussie news over here, but we have the Kiwi coming in. and Aussie and Kiwi is kind of correlated. So whatever happened on New Zealand may have an impact in Australia as well. Maybe the move itself is not going to be as significant, but it still would have a little bit of an impact from there. Right? So Aussie dollar, keep track. Okay, so the idea is for me, if this comes back up and we start to see kind of a setup to sell it around the zone, that will be a pretty decent trade to the downside, right? Because you can put targets here, you can put targets as a previous low here as well. Right? So quite a clear structure to keep an eye on. Opportunities that you can definitely look into as well. Right? Then we have the dollar CAD. Dollar CAD is actually one of the nicer trade that we had last week. Okay. So last week we kind of took the buy trade. In fact, before last week, we did actually share a little bit as well. For some of you who are actively joining us on a regular basis, we saw this diagonal pattern. Okay, for me specifically, I took a buy of this breakout. Okay, and then we get a correction over here last week. We did cover. This has a good chance of moving higher as well. Okay, and if I put in this fit ratios back again, you can see how nicely it comes back to this target at 100%. That's where our initial target is, and then post NFP it drops, right? So this is actually a very, very good case study over here. And there are multiple ways you can get involved, right? You can either get involved in the breakout of the diagonal, you can wait for the pullback, you can look out for 50%, get involved in it, or you can wait for this breakout to get involved in it. There are multiple ways, okay, in trading this entire move up. Okay. So of course you don't want to be buying it now, but the idea is, just want to share with you, this can be a very, very good case study that you can study into, okay, to kind of help yourself into some of the patterns that we often talk about. So right now what we have is we have a completed 1, 2, 3, okay, and therefore we can't expect a deeper pullback over here, potentially also another 3 wave. So 1, 2, 3. And what I'm looking out for is if you get a tiny bit of a consolidation and corrective pullback, right, we may be able to capitalize on this short-term sell, right? For me, I need to then assess, is the risk to reward worthwhile, is the trade worth taking, and things like that, right? So the idea is this week I'm looking at potential, a sell trade here with this move to the downside. Now keeping in mind on Wednesday we do have CPI from the dollar as well as the BOC rate statement. Okay, so it's definitely going to be very, very volatile for the dollar CAD on Wednesday itself. So if you're trading this particular pair and you're looking for opportunities, okay, just be aware those events are happening. Okay, factor in the potential volatility of it. Okay, dollar yen starting to fall. We have been waiting for this for some time. Okay, but again, why we are not interested in the buy, right? Why we did not focus on it is simply because this pattern here again, is suggesting that the reversal has a higher chance. It's not 100%, but it's a higher probability, and therefore we're not interested in the buy, right? Since last 2 weeks, okay, we do not have a sell, but I kind of highlight that we're simply waiting for an impulsive break. Okay, so that came from NFP. Okay, and what you can see and observe over here is since this low, we don't really have kind of like a significant pullback. We did have a consolidation here, but we don't really have a pullback. Okay, I've talked about this before. The market, especially in the currency world, tends to have pullback, right? Especially if you have an overextension, the market tends to pull back. So whenever you realize that the market has been overextended, right, you want to be cautious in trading in that direction anymore, and you want to be starting to look for maybe potential counter trend opportunities, right? So there are many reasons that can affect the yen. Okay, it can be equities market coming down, risk off environment. It can be the fear and the anticipation of what Bank of Japan has mentioned, right? They actually release a statement and say that if things don't go well, they may intervene, right? So a lot of all this can actually impact the yen. Now we naturally wouldn't know for sure what is going to impact the yen, which news is going to move the yen. But what we can do over here is obviously based on technical analysis, look at some patterns that tend to repeat itself with certain accuracy. And then we just follow from there, right? Because those are high probability patterns. We use the technical to give us some direction, and then we understand the fundamentals, we understand the sentiment, to combine this together, right? So that's where it builds up that conviction and confidence in it. So dollar yen to me, right now is moving, right? So it's a little bit too early to kind of start measure the fips or what sort, right? But the idea here is, you don't want to sell it now, right? Because this is coming down pretty fast, okay? So what you want to do is simply wait for a corrective pullback, okay? This may take some time. Okay, you might want to wait for a corrective pullback before you get involved in a sell. Okay, now the primary target over here you can look out for is somewhere around 139.30 to 137.90. So the downside is pretty significant. Okay, but you just don't want to be rushing in. Again, I would suggest wait for a pullback before you get in. Okay, so most of these yen pairs are generally moving, right? So pretty neat. Okay, to share with you a little bit, right? I mean, for us, I've been looking at the yen for good, I would say almost a month to 2 months. Okay, but there's no setup coming to me, right? But the idea is when it comes, you want to be well prepared. Okay, but when there's no setup, you don't want to be rushing into a trade just because you want to trade it. Right? So that's something that you need to take note, right? Because you don't want to be like not aware of it and you did not prepare for it and then you miss out on it, right? But at the same time, you don't want to be just jumping into a trade just because you're bored, okay? So be patient, wait for it, and I think the yen setups, okay, are really coming. I think pound yen has really some huge opportunity that we can capitalize on if this starts off. Again, you can look at how this has been running massively without any significant pullback. If this is gonna start doing that pullback, this is really a huge opportunity that we can look into. Okay, so the yen pairs, definitely start focusing on it. Okay, gold. Okay, this is my view. Quite similar to the Aussie actually. Okay, the development recently seems a little bit corrective in nature, right? It's not going up very strong. The initial expectation over here is we want to see an impulse and then a correction and then we can expect more upside, right? But for now, seems like this is doing a little bit corrective in nature. So if this is going to be a correction, then there's a good chance this will drop first, okay? Maybe break the previous bottom and then only a bigger move up. Then we'll adjust the labeling, right? So again, the labeling is not the most important aspect. Focus on what the pattern is developing, okay? So gold here, for me as a swing trade, is naturally going to be neutral. I just want to wait for a while to see how it's going to develop further. But if you're more of a short-term trader, you may be able to capitalize on this move. Okay, and if let's say this starts to go up and we start to see, okay, we have some sign of a sell rejection, sell setup over there, okay, then that's where you want to take the sell trade to the downside with a target back at the previous low, around 1892. And then you want to take profit and potentially start to look for reversal again. Alright, so gold here, I think this week may or may not give you anything depending on whether you are short term or a swing trader. Okay, crude oil. Okay, so over the weekend, I kind of received a Facebook message from one of the traders. Okay, I wouldn't name you up, but hopefully you are also here. Sharing with me that he actually made quite a decent profit from crude oil, which is great. Okay, now I personally don't trade crude oil, but I know some of you actually do, and I regularly also share my analysis on crude oil. And if you manage to capitalize on the analysis and make some profits out of it, right? Great, right? That's what I think. My objective here as well is to provide you some different ideas and insights to give you a different opinion on the market and maybe help you out in your trading as well, right? So the analysis on crude oil is basically we are testing the top of the channel right now, right? So I personally would suggest to maybe consider taking partial profits or even just exit the trade and wait for next opportunity, right? Again, back to your trading plan, how you're going to manage your trade. But for me, I would suggest at least consider taking some profits off the table. You don't want to give back too many. Wait for a pullback. If this comes down correctively, okay, from this move here, it comes down correctively, then we can expect more upside and price would likely break this structure. Okay, so I think general direction is definitely upside. It's just about, do you want to can maximize your profit by taking off here, enter again here, right? So can maximize the returns, right? Because you close off this profit, look to re-enter. If this goes, you capture another one. Okay. So again, it's part of your management plan, right? Not telling you to close off any buy trade now. Just a suggestion, maybe take a bit, lock in your profits, look for a next opportunity. Okay, so that's on crude oil. General S&P equities, my personal take here is there's a good chance we'll come down a little bit more, right? So same thing, we were here last week. I mentioned, don't buy in just because we're at the top, especially after an impulsive move. Just be patient, right? And right now we're looking at things here, this pullback, there's a good chance this will continue to drop a little bit more. We'll probably break this low and then bounce off from that, right? So this would likely turn into a regular flat structure, and then we can look for upside. Obviously, it does not need to follow what I anticipated. This can just keeps going. Now, if this just keeps going and we start to see a crawl, I wouldn't suggest to be buying it as well, because then that would mean it may take a longer time to develop, but there's also a good probability this will come back here and then only go up. Okay. So if this does a crawl, I suggest don't buy in. Just be a little bit more patient. If this does not form into a crawl and this just drops from here, okay, and tag this, then of course you'll be looking for upside from there on. Right, yes, Yusuf, crawl is just a way for me to describe the diagonal pattern, right? But basically it looks like that, which is a diagonal structure. Okay, so that's on the S&P side of things. Bitcoin, okay, BTC, I'm bullish overall, mainly from this impulsive run, but I'm waiting for a setup to get involved in it, right? Right now, this doesn't seem done, right? Basically, this corrective pattern is not complete. Now, what will be a complete pattern over here is from here, we get one move down, one move up. If this comes down around this zone, that will complete what we call an expanding flat, and then we can start to look for more upside. Okay, so I'm just basically patient to be waiting for the buy setup to come to me. Okay, so does it need to come down to this low? Obviously no, right? I mean, the market can do what it wants, but as a trader, you just need to be very clear like what you want. Okay, and you need to be clear what you want to see before you execute a trade. And if the market gives you what you want, great, right? That's your condition, that's your criteria, that's your signal to get involved in it. Yeah, so I think Bitcoin, you probably need to wait a little bit while, maybe nearer towards the end of the week, then we may see some potential setups. But the closest of all, I think, in terms of like what is the closest setup that you may get involved and you may have the potential to trade, I would say is euro dollar, okay, because this just requires it to form a little bit of a corrective move. You can look for upside. Aussie dollar here as well, it just needs to come out a little bit. If you can see some sort of rejection, you can take the sell. Okay, dollar CAD is a little bit tricky, okay, depending on whether you want to look for a short-term sell here, because Wednesday we have 2 news coming out related to that. Yeah, other than this, gold may or may not, right? Again, depending on how fast price develop, but these are some of the things you can keep an eye on, right? For the yens, pay attention to it, but I don't think you're gonna get anything meaningful this week in terms of entry opportunities, right? Especially based on the setups that I use. Okay, I think the yen pairs will probably need to wait until like next week. The reason is quite simple, right? Because we are starting to see an impulse, right? Every time we see an impulse, we just need to wait for correction, and it takes time to develop, so we don't rush things in. Cool. Okay, so those are some of the things to keep you guys updated. In terms of like what to keep an eye on for this week, what are some of the things that is I would say you want to pay a little bit more attention to, what are some of the things I'm personally looking into. Okay, now very quickly I'll open up for some questions. I give you some time to type your questions in. Okay, so I'll give you some time to type it in, right? At the meantime, I'll quickly update you guys in terms of some of the events that's upcoming, okay, as well as some announcement over here. Now, first update over here is actually an event, an offline physical event happening on the 15th of July, okay, which is this coming Saturday. And the event will be held in Kuala Lumpur from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. and the topic of it, that we're going to talk about is harnessing market correlation. Okay, so of course you may have some understanding about market correlation, how certain markets are related. This particular session here will be diving a little bit more into certain strategies in which you can use to, number one, protect your downside, right? So you actually use market correlation as a form of hedge. Number two is how you can use market correlation as a form of confirmation to give you that conviction and the extra confidence in taking certain trades. Okay, and number three, how you can use market correlation to actually filter trades, right? For example, if you are looking at Aussie dollar as well as Kiwi dollar, which one do you choose, right? If both give you a setup, do you take the Aussie dollar or do you take the New Zealand dollar? There are certain techniques in which using market correlation, okay, will give you a very mechanical, step-by-step method to identify which one you should be focusing more. Okay, now you need to register for this event if you're coming so that the team can actually prepare the seats for you. Okay, so if you are joining this event, okay, depending on where you are watching this stream right now, okay, if you are watching it on Zoom, the team will actually drop a WhatsApp link. Okay, if you're watching it on YouTube, there is a WhatsApp link in my description box. If you're watching it on trading.live, okay, then what you need to go to is my social media on Instagram. Okay, and you basically just need to click on the link on my profile. It'll bring you to this page over here. Okay, and you can see this link here called Harnessing Market Correlation Workshop. You just click this. It'll bring you over to WhatsApp. Okay, and then you just need to WhatsApp the team saying that you're interested to attend this workshop. Sign me up, right? So that's how it works. Okay, so that's a very quick update on this upcoming event. Now, if you can't make it on the 15th, okay, we have one more session that is going to be conducted in Chinese Mandarin. Same topic, same content. It's on the 22nd of July, but the venue is different. It's going to be at Armada Hotel, right? So same thing, if you want to register for this, WhatsApp the team, let them know RSVP. Okay, so that's a quick update on the events that's upcoming. Okay, so good. I'm seeing one question over here from Chia, right? So Chia asks, what's my view on A50 and HSI? Okay, Hong Kong and China market. Okay, China market right now, this pattern we're seeing here quite similar to Aussie dollar, right? So there's a good chance what we're seeing is a simple three-wave move. Okay, that may be a corrective setup. I mean, if this goes up and then we again start to see some kind of a crawl, some kind of rejection, okay, this would then be a three wave. This is then pulse. We can expect this drop, retest the bottom, maybe then only bounce, right? So if you are interested in this short-term buy, then you may want to go into lower time frame, maybe M30, H1. See if you can get a correction here, and then you can take your short-term buy, right? But once it tapped here, any buy, you probably just want to exit it, look for targets, and then see if you can look for a sell. Okay, so this on China A50. Okay, Hong Kong over here. Okay, so very nice, right? I do not trade the Hang Seng, but I think this one was shared last week as well. Again, the pattern tends to repeat, right? So very nice little three-wave move. Okay, again, you can see impulse, correction, impulse, right? So right now, how would I view this and update this, right? So let me turn this into yellow to white because it's done. Okay, so how do we look at it right now? I'll move this invalidation level here because this is an impulsive move. Okay, I'll use a little bit of a FIPS, okay, to help me guide a little bit in terms of some reference point. The idea is if this continues to do a little bit of a consolidation like that, we can expect more downside. Okay, so the primary target right now would be obviously this low, right? Okay, so same thing, quite similar to A50, right? Just that the overall pattern structure is slightly different. But if you can get a corrective move here, okay, this would be downside, right? So China stocks, right? Same thing here, corrective move, downside, right? But I think for now, same thing, right? I think last week, as you mentioned, Hong Kong is a little bit clearer in terms of the setup and the structure. This week here is still the same, right? I think HSI is a little bit clearer in the setup, simply because of this impulsive, and if this forms a correction, this setup is cleaner as compared to the sell on this one. Okay, because this is quite wide, right? Hang Seng looks a little bit nicer. Okay, so if you want, focus on Hang Seng. Okay. FTSE. Okay, let me take a look at it. Okay. So on the daily, we kind of have this little double bottomage structure. We have a little bit of bounce. Now, my take on this right now is just wait. Okay. What I'm waiting for and what I would love to see is somewhat of a V, something like that. Okay, apply it here, and then wait for a correction. Okay, if that's the case, then you want to start looking for a buy, because then you'll be combining with this bottom here as a potential double bottom structure. Okay, no reason to be selling here, okay, because we're already at the previous bottom. The downside may be a little bit limited for now, unless the price breaks this impulsively and then does a correction below that structure, right? Then that's a different case, right? But for now, I think FTSE this week, you just wait, leave it, okay? Nothing much on that. Okay, last one here I see is Euro Pound. Okay, so yeah, so this is my take on Euro Pound. Kind of update this a little bit. Seems like it's coming up a little bit now. So this move here is relatively a bit fast, right? Not the ideal kind of corrective pullback. So I would say wait and see if you can get this to come down a bit more, and then this to go back up. Okay, so you want this to turn into a corrective move. That's 1, 2, 3 is slow, so you get an impulse correction. You expect this downside. Okay. So Euro Pound, this is the area to look out for, but you need to also include the time element. Okay, this is too fast. You want it to come back down, then go back up. Maybe sometime here, around 19th of July, which is sometime next week. Maybe it's a better pattern and setup to take the sell trade. Okay, so Euro Pound just want to wait a little bit while. Okay, yeah. Good. So those are the few questions I think we have. Very quickly over here, I just also want to update you in one of the PAM account. Okay, just a very quick update. This is actually PAM account basically stands for percentage allocation management module, right? So what it does is basically you have the opportunity, you have the decision that if you want, you can actually tag your trading account to follow this master account, and then whenever this master account trades and make profits, then the profits will then be allocated and shared back with you, right? So this actually started just recently this year in May for the PAM account. Okay, and just want to keep you guys updated a little bit. If you're interested, feel free to reach out to the team. We'll be able to share a little bit more information with you. Then after that, with those information, you can make a more informed decision as to whether this fits you or not, if you want it or not. Entirely up to you, right? But just want to update you. Some of you who are watching may be already investors tagged in this PAM. Okay, this is the performance so far. Again, I want to share with you what is important is the realistic aspect of trading. Okay, now month of May we managed to get about 8.8%, which everyone should be quite happy with that. Now June was slow. Okay, we only managed to get about 1.3%, and June we kind of had quite a period where basically we're just holding on to trades, right? We did not close it, we did not really open much of a new trades, but we're holding on to them. for I think a good 1 to 1.5 weeks. Okay, and I just want to touch on this so that some of the traders may start to be a bit anxious and such, right? But this is the whole process of trading, right? The idea is sometimes the market is slow. We don't force things in, right? We don't force a trade in. We just let our plan play out, and we just be disciplined and stick to it. Okay. And just starting this month, okay, we're basically 10 days into it, in July, so we're right now profiting about 3.7% for this month already. Okay. Yeah, so this is the account. Just want to update you guys on that. Just to let you know, if you're interested to find out a little bit more about it, feel free to reach out to the team. Same thing, that WhatsApp link. Just let the team know, if you want RSVP for the event, or you would like to find out a little bit more about this PAM, just let them know. Okay, so that's all from me for today. I hope it's helpful. Okay, in terms of giving you some ideas and giving you an overview of the week, what to take note of, and a little bit in terms of trading aspect and things like this. Okay, so good. That's all from me. All the best to your trading this week. Okay, if you are joining in the events that we have this coming Saturday, we're happy to see you then. If you're interested in the PAM and you would like to understand a little bit more what exactly is, feel free to reach out to the team. I think they'll be more than happy to help you. Okay, so all the best, and we'll see you guys again real soon. Okay, bye.